Hey, Plug-in Jamaica family. We're here again with another discussion surrounding EVs in Jamaica. And we have Howard on the call with us today. And we'll be looking at the plug types for electric vehicles. Now, you'll be wondering that's not such a sexy topic, but it's very important when it comes to electric vehicles to understand the plug types that are associated with different makes, or it could depend on what region the car comes from. So, Howard is a guru on this. He will take over. I'm going to ask him just to go through a little presentation to explain why this is important. Howie?
Afternoon, everybody. All right, so basically, we're going to go over the different plug types that are available on the market and those that are currently supported and not supported in Jamaica. So there are two ways to charge your car. There is AC charging, which is referred to as alternating current. Basically, this is when you charge at home, and then the onboard controller basically charges the battery itself, changes the AC to DC, so the battery itself can be charged. The second method is what is called direct current, or is basically direct charging. We call it DC fast charging or level three charging, where you'll have direct current itself going into the battery itself to charge it at a much higher rate than AC charging. So below you want to see a number of different charging types that are out on the market globally. The one plug type that covers both AC and DC is the Tesla charging plug. This is also now called the J3400 since it's now being introduced in the United States as a standard.
All right. Before you go any further there, Howie, you mentioned a lot of different plug types. You put some weird shapes up on the screen. Some persons might not be aware if that's the end of the plug, right? That's what it would look like, not necessarily the port on the vehicle.
That is correct. These are the end of the
Uh,
plugs.
Okay, and you mentioned there's a standard. Does Jamaica have a standard as yet, or we're working with anything that comes here?
No, Jamaica itself does not have a standard. So basically, um, anyone that brings in their own electric vehicle will have to have their own plugs to
Hmm,
actually support it right now.
okay, so it's very important then for someone looking to import their own vehicle to know if that plug type is already supported here,
And
especially if they're only going to be charging at a public charger, right?
that is correct. If you're going to charge at a public charger, then the plug types will be important. If you're charging at home, then no, the plug types, your car would normally come with a particular plug type, and then from there, you can just plug it into the wall or set up a level two charger, and you can charge at home. So since 90% of your charging is going to be at home, then the the plug type itself in your home environment is not really important. But once you go out into the public space, then that is where it will become important.
Okay.
So what you're looking at now on the screen is the different AC plug types on on the global market.
Hmm.
So the GBT is the Chinese plug type. The J1772 is the plug type that is used in the United States and Japan. The Type 2 is used mostly in Europe and basically a lot of other countries in the world. Basically go with the Type 2 standard. So country like Britain, Australia, uh, pick any country in Europe, they're going to be using the Type 2 standards. And then you have Tesla, which does their own thing. This plug type is supported both in the United States as well as Japan. The Type 2, for you will find some Teslas with the Type 2 ports that are coming out of Europe. And if the car is coming out of China directly, then the car itself will have a GBT port.
Okay.
Mm.
Very interesting. I know some persons might wonder why is this important because they're probably used to just going to the gas station and you put a nozzle. No matter if it's Total or Rubis or whatever, all of the nozzle shapes are the same. But with electric vehicles, different shapes, different makes, and so forth. So very important to know what type of car you have and the plug type. And failing that there are adapters, right? We can adapt to any one of these um, plug standards.
Yeah, so there are a number of adapters on the market for each plug type. So I know for a fact that there is J7 the J1772 to Type 2. There is a plug type adapter. There's also an adapter for the Tesla to both the J1772 as well as the Type 2. I'm not aware if there's a plug type for the GBT ports, but the GBT port, there's an adapter for this plug type to the Type 2. I'm not aware of one for the J1772.
Okay.
So yeah, there are a number of adapters. You can, if you do a search on Amazon or eBay or AliExpress, you'll probably find an adapter for each one of these plug types.
Cool.
Right. So the most important set of plugs are the DC fast charging plug types. So this is basically once you go out into the public space and you want to use a public charger. These are the different plug types that you're going to like to run across, or your car will be supporting one out of these five here. So the CCS1 is basically used within the United States and Japan. The CCS2 is basically used in basically the rest of the world. So, Chadamo is mostly used in Japan. Granted, some people believe that it is a dying plug type, but there are a lot of used Nissan Leafs out there on the global market. So the Chadamo itself is used both in the United States and Europe. Basically, any country that has any form of DC fast charging setup, chances are a Chadamo plug type will be on one of those DC fast chargers.
Okay.
You then have the GBT DC plug type. This is based out of China. This is only in China for right now. There are no other countries that use this particular plug type outside of China. And then you have the Tesla plug type, which, as of right now, this particular plug type is only supported both in the United States and Japan.
Okay.
Uh,
So not even in Australia, where I see they're having a huge uptake with Tesla.
no, in Australia, they would use the CCS2.
Oh, so they have to adapt to that. Okay.
Mhm. Right?
All right.
So if you know in Jamaica, the CCS1 and the CCS2, the Chatamo are all supported by the charging operators. And basically, we will go over which operator supports which type. But as of right now, the GBT and the Tesla are not supported in the Jamaican environment at this time. So if you bring a car in with these particular ports, you're going to need an adapter to actually use these plug types or port types.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really interested to see what plugs are supported here in Jamaica. Now you're gonna come to it. As you know, we had a friend who had a recent experience where he brought in a EV and wasn't able to charge with one of our, charging providers. He had to be using a particular one, and it was a good distance away from him. So I guess doing beforehand, where you can charge a car is very important.
Yeah, that is true. That is very true.
Yeah.
So you have a number of EV charging types. So let's cover those first. You have the AC level one charging. Basically, this is the equivalent of a 110 or 120 volt phase one system. Basically, it's you're plugging up. You just it's a level one plug-in. You have the higher voltage AC level two charging, which is like your the juice box that you have at home to charge your car. So it ranges from anywhere from 12 amps all the way up to an 80 amp system, basically to provide power to the car and basically reduce the charge time for an electric vehicle. And then you have what is called the DC fast charging, where this is high voltage going directly into the car's battery pack in order to give it a very fast rate of charge, which will give you, let's say, from a 10% to 80% charge time, anywhere between 20 to 30 minutes. So DC fast charging is what you will likely come across in a public space to basically help you charge your car in a much faster time than a level one or a level two.
Okay. I
So
think that would be the most convenient persons, that's especially like where they're putting these chargers now in the malls. You
yeah,
typically go to an ATM or buy food, 15 minutes tops, maybe
yeah,
15 to 20 minutes. So
eh,
by the time you come out, yeah, should be done with the charging.
yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
Um, so basically, this is an example of the home charging levels that are available. So Jamaica can support a 110 regular plug, and it has the ability to also support the level two charging at home. So you, you should do a video of how your system is set up to charge your car at home.
Sure.
Mm,
Definitely. I'll share that.
it- Um, this is what is called the public charging levels. So there are three types of charging levels in the DC fast charging environment. So the first that came to market was the 50 kilowatt charging. Normally that was introduced when the Nissan Leaf first came out in roughly
Yeah.
about 2010, 2011. Uh, Tesla then came out with a 150 kilowatt system when they first introduced the Tesla Model S. And now in the global environment, we have a 350 kilowatt system.
Oh,
Mhm. I know Jamaica is supposed to have, um, we support two. I know that a couple of our providers have a 50 kilowatt system as well as a 150 kilowatt system out there in the public space. So,
okay.
you, and the coverage itself for DC fast charging is all over the island. Now the question in this particular instance, now that the island itself is covered, it's not at a situation where everybody in Jamaica can switch over to electric vehicles. We don't reach that point yet. But for an early adopter or an enthusiast, driving around the country itself right now is doable
Mhm.
without any problem.
And
Um,
just to say, this does not show all the chargers in Jamaica.
yeah,
There are way more than this.
yeah,
You'd probably have to zoom in. This was just probably the scale at which you did it, the map.
yeah.
If you want to see a detail of all the chargers, you can go to pluginjamaica.com. We have a map section there that shows you all the public chargers. Some of them are free, some are the paid ones, and yeah, take a look.
So um, we have two major players right now in the market. That is JPS Charge and Go and Evergo. So basically, both companies provide DC fast charging services, and we would need to basically we're just going to go over which company supports which particular plug type, right? And you'll find a commonality between the two, which gives certain vehicle types an advantage over others that would not normally have an advantage in this scenario. So we're going to start off with JPS. So GPS is going along with the European plug type standards, where the CCS2 is the dominant plug for a lot of vehicles. The CHAdeMO itself is also supported on their unit. So basically, you can use any vehicle out of Japan that has a CHAdeMO port can actually use the CHAdeMO plug itself. And then
Okay.
the type 2 is basically the AC. Um, it's an AC plug type that is on that is on the charging unit as well. So basically, if the car that you import doesn't have the CCS port to the CCS2 port to charge, chances are it will have a Type 2 port that you can actually charge at that unit.
Okay.
And this is their Type 2. This is their AC public charging station. It's slower than the DC fast charging. It would be the equivalent of your home charging, and you will see the plug type that's there. Right, it's the Type 2, and the units, you'll find a lot of these units all over the place because JPS basically is in the process of actually building out a large number of units that have level 2 charging for public spaces as well as DC fast charging spaces.
Okay.
And then you have Evergo. Um, Evergo is really good from my point of view. They've covered the island really well with the systems that they've put out. So in their system, they're going with the the US as well as Japan plug type standards. So they're using the CCS1 as well as the CHAdeMO, and their level two AC charging units use the J1772 plugs. So if you bring a car out, if you import a car from the United States that has DC fast charging, chances are it's going to have a CCS1 plug type. And since Evergo is covering the island with these units, you wouldn't have a problem finding charging for these for the cars. Now the
I
Nissan,
really like their just forever go. I like their new DC chargers. Very easy to understand. Whether you're using they give you a RFID card, but I've always used the app
uh,
and I've never had a problem connecting. And even if you do, their customer service seems to be on point. So that's very important for early adopter, especially if you have a low charge and you get to a charger and it's not working, you know.
all right. So out of the two, which one would you prefer to use the most? Then, yeah, just a question.
Well, I mean, outside of home charging, of course, if it's DC, definitely Evergo. You have the reason being more chargers. I mean, in Kingston alone, it's almost like every few miles now you have a charger. You have, especially in Kingston 6 area, Red Hills area, a lot of chargers. In downtown, you have chargers, and they are 24/7 access, which is really good. You
Yeah.
know, if the charger is down, I get a text to my phone to say, hey, this one is out of service. And when it's back up, I get a text to say, Dame Hugh, this charger is back online. And if I have a challenge, I can easily reach someone from that team to troubleshoot. Not to say JPS own is um, bad. It's just that I have more access with Evergo and I find the app easier to use. I prefer adding funds as well to the wallet. I prefer that system instead of trying to attach a credit card with JPS's app. So the virtual wallet works a little better for me.
I give JPS time. I think they will build out a really competitive system to ever go at some point. Because I mean, when they started it out in the beginning, you only had one charging station out in a center, and your
But that's the
experience.
one that saved me. So I can't, I have to give JPS their props. If it wasn't for that charger,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have been able to come back in. And one thing to what I think what has leveled the playing field for me is now that Evergo charges per kilowatt hour.
Yes.
For it was a time-based thing, which would have cost us more money. As you get to 80%, the rate of charge slows down. So billing me per minute would have cost me more with them than JPS. But now that the two are per kilowatt hour, it is it's Evergo the better option, I think, right now.
Yeah. We should do a piece on the different cost structures for the per kilowatt charging. Should definitely do a piece on that one.
It's a little technical with one does it at a consistent rate, no matter the time of day, but the other one does a time of day thing and weekend charging. And you can take advantage of it. But yeah, for sure, we can go through that and explain it. Mhm.
Right. And yeah.
Yeah, so it's as I said, it all depends too on what vehicle you're purchasing. You know, persons bringing in vehicles from China. We're seeing a lot of Chinese brands coming out.
Yes.
Um, a lot of persons not aware of these Chinese brands either, and think they're just some cheap, no good cars. But trust me, they're some of them are really excellent quality. BYD now has taken over Tesla as the number one EV um, brand in the world in
No,
terms
no,
of
no,
sales.
no. Production for a fourth quarter, not take over the world, just production for the
They
fourth
have taken over
quarter.
because of the number of vehicles that they are producing right now compared to Tesla. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
from commercial to private. I mean,
Commercial to private. All right, I give you that. I give
yeah,
you
they're gonna be they've taken over in terms of that. But a lot of Jamaicans don't know beyond your dreams, right? They said BYD, what ATL doing with BYD. I think they
that.
need to go and take a look. Just have a look.
Mm,
It's pretty neat car. I mean, Tesla was also a no name at one point and quickly has taken they took over and was the market leader for a long time. We'll see if they can rein in back BYD. But it's good as a purchaser right now. You have a lot of options. But as we said, just be careful when looking at the plug types that these cars use because it will affect where you can charge them if you're using the public chargers. If you're home charging, less of an issue.
mm.
If you're in the market for an EV, just remember to look out for the different plug types. If you're interested, we just leave a link to the document in the description below so that you can go through it in more detail. All right. So stay plugged in, Jamaica.